So, good day sir, good day classmates. I am Ludimar B. Baing, your BSEd Math first year, and I am explaining the sampling and simulation in chapter 14. So, my assigned topic is 14-1, the common sampling methods, and the 14-2, which is the surveys and questionnaire designs. And my objectives is demonstrate a knowledge of the four sampling methods and recognize study questions on a survey and other factors that can bias responses. In chapter 1, I explained this four sampling methods, and a population was defined as all subjects, human or otherwise, under study. Since some population can be very large, research cannot use every single subject, so a sample must be selected. A sample is a subgroup of the population. In other words, the number of individuals in the sample is less than the number of individuals in the population. Any subgroup of the populations, technically speaking, can be called a sample. However, for a researcher to make valid inferences about population characteristics, the sample must be random. And the four sampling techniques. First is the random sample, systematic sample, stratified sample, and cluster sample. Since this random sample is explained by Giselme Asuncion, I am continuing this topic through systematic sample, stratified sample, and cluster sample. The systematic sample. A systematic sample is a sample obtained by numbering each element in the population, selecting some random starting point, and then selecting every kth element, the third or fifth or 10th, etc., from the population to be included in the sample. Example: every 10th bottle of energized soda is selected and the amount of liquid in the bottle is measured. The purpose is to see if the machines that fill the bottles are working properly. In short, this systematic sampling is determined by every 10th, every third, and every fifth. Another example of this systematic sampling is that if you have 200 applicants in a company and you have 50 samples, you divide 200 by 50, so you have every fourth applicants of this company will be selected. So the third sample is the stratified sampling. The stratified sampling means that a sample obtained by dividing the population into subgroups or strata according to some characteristic relevant to the study. There can be several subgroups. Then subjects are selected as random from each group. Example: a researcher divides a group of students according to gender, major field, low average, and high grades points average. Then she randomly selects 6 students from each group to answer questions in a survey. So, this stratified sampling tells here that according to gender, you can select every student in every strata. Another example of this is the BSEd Math students, the male and a female gender. So we can conduct, or we can randomly select 6 males and 6 females in BSEd Math students. So that's what stratified sampling means. So fourth is the cluster sampling. A cluster sample is obtained by dividing the population into selections or clusters and then selecting one or more clusters at random and using all members in the clusters as the members of the sample. Example: out of 10 hospitals in a municipality, a researcher selects one and collects records for a 24-hour period on the types of emergencies that were treated here. Examples of the 10 hospitals: Hospital of Margos, Pagadian, and San Miguel. Every hospital, you can select one municipality that represents the cluster. So that means the cluster sampling. So in 14-2, survey and questionnaire design, many statistical studies obtain information from surveys. A survey is conducted when a sample of individuals is asked to respond questions about a particular subject. So there are two types of surveys: interviewer administered and self-administered. Interviewer-administered surveys require a person to ask the questions. The interview can be conducted face-to-face in an office, on a street, or in the mall, or via telephone. So when you are writing questions for a questionnaire, it is important to avoid these mistakes. Asking biased questions, using confusing words, asking double-barreled questions, using double negative in questions, and ordering questions improperly. So, this asking biased questions tells that by asking questions in a certain way, the researcher can lead the respondents to answer in the way he or she wants them to. For example, asking a question such as, "Are you going to vote for candidate Jones even though the latest survey indicates that he will lose the election?" Instead of, "Are you going to vote or candidate Jones?" may dissuade some people from answering in the affirmative. So using confusing words. In this case, the particular misinterprets the meaning of the words and answers. Answers the question in a biased way. For example, the question, "Do you think people would live longer if they were on a diet?" could be misinterpreted since there are many different types of diets. Weight loss diets, low salt diets, and medically prescribed diets, and etc. So asking double-barreled questions. Sometimes questions contain compound sentences that require the participant to respond to two questions at the same time. So for example, the question, "Are you in favor of a special tax to provide national health care for the citizens of the United States?" Ask two questions. Are you in favor of the national health care program, or do you favor tasks to support it? So, using double negatives and questions. Questions with double negatives can be confusing to the respondents. For example, the questions, "Do you feel that it is not appropriate to have areas where people cannot smoke?" is very confusing since "not" is used twice in a sentence. So the last is ordering questions improperly. So by arranging the questions in a certain order, the researcher can lead the participant to respond in a way that he or she may otherwise may have not done. For example, a question might ask the respondent, "At what age should an elderly person not be permitted to drive?" A later question might ask the respondent to list some problems of elderly people. The respondent may indicate and transportation is a problem based on reading the previous question. And that's what the five common mistakes that you avoid when you're writing questions for a questionnaire. And that's all. Thank you.